class, and which I really like the most. So let's take the absence first and then start directly by speaking about the Muslim civilization.
Okay.
9-3, 8th period, and we have Iyad, Ibrahim, Musad, Saad, Salim, and Walid.
This is
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, Saad. How are you doing, Saad? Do you have a mic, Saad? So, can you open your mic and speak to us? Are you using a laptop, a desktop, or your phone? The computer. Okay, so there must be this item here, okay, of the mic, or you just click the start button and then write mic or microphone or speakers or any one of them, and then you can just start by modifying what's going on in your computer. Okay, Redman. Today we will continue speaking about the Muslim Empire. So before we read, let's just make a quick discussion, because you know that I love to discuss.
Before we read, we should like revise. We should revise 5-4.
Revise 5-4.
Yes.
Well, that's actually a good point. We can do that, but after we finish. So, at the end of the session, I'll make like 10 or 15 minutes to revise the rest of the topic 5-4. So, regarding the Islamic practice change.
So he is an absent.
I beg your pardon?
No, I've joined the session, so he is an absent.
Okay.
Hi, teacher.
Hello, Nawaf. Why are you late?
Present.
You are late. Why?
There's problem in the network.
Problem in the network. Okay, that's what I did thought. So, once again, we have already spoken about the Islamic civilization. We have spoken about the Holy Quran. We have spoken about the 5 pillars of Islam, and also about the way of the Islam. And we have mentioned the women and how women are treated in Islam. The point that we neglected yesterday, because of the time, of course, was that the Islamic practices change. How did the Islamic practice change, or how did they affect the people? So, from your point of view, did Islam change the practices of the people?
Yes.
Regarding what?
The way of life, everything.
The way of life as a whole. And to be more specific,
what's your question?
How did Islam change the practices of the people?
So how women act, for example.
Women were given rights. Nice.
Our morals?
Morals, exactly. No lying, no cheating, no selling, no raping. The ethics, nice. Speaking to people, smiling to them, treating each one equally. So all of this led to the change in the people's practice, and that was after Islam. So simply as Islam spread throughout Asia, Africa, and also Europe, Muslims adapted practices to conquer people. That's another thing that started at that time. Because at that time, while speaking about Muslims, Islam, of course, started to spread in the Arabian Peninsula. And that's a point that we need to cover. So like any civilization in the world, guys, once Islam started here in the Arabian Peninsula, right?
Yeah.
And it needed to do what?
Spread.
Exactly.
Expand.
Here, we started here in the Arabian Peninsula. That's pretty.
It's also good that it was in the Arabian Peninsula because it's a crossroad to Europe and Asia
Yep.
and
Great.
Africa as well. So trading
That's
and cultures could go through.
all right. So that's very awesome. So most of the civilizations in the world at the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they were centered here. This 25 minutes. I'm sorry. So once again, our Islam started to spread here in the Arabian Peninsula. And regarding to the Arabian Peninsula at the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, most of the civilization were centered in Asia. Here we have the Indian civilization, the Indian, the Chinese, the Persian, and here we have the Roman, right? And here we have the Egyptian, the Byzantine country or the Byzantine Empire, and also the Egyptian were under the Byzantine Empire at that time. So most of the civilization, and here we have Islam. So our Prophet, peace be upon him, he started to spread Islam first in the Arabian Peninsula, sending people down to Yemen, here to the north, to the tribes here, to the tribes there, and then he come to counter the people in that place, the Mesopotamian civilization, nowadays Iraq and Syria. And here was another civilization, the Byzantine civilization. And here we have the Persian civilization. And here we have the Roman civilization. And later the Indian and the Chinese. So to spread in all of these people, you have to take them, of course, one by one, right? And to take them one by one, our Prophet, peace be upon him, he sent his fellowship, the Sahaba, to these places first. First, they started by Yep. The spread here until they can counter other civilization. And we will speak about that in a minute. And of course, to speak about this, you need to know that the Sahaba and our Prophet, peace be upon him, they had to fight. As you know, we were giving people three options. Option number one, enter Islam. Option number two, pay the taxes, and we have already spoken about the taxes. And option number three, get into the fight. And if they are to fight, they will have to attack first. So never attack first. You do not attack. You are just spreading our message. So for example, the practice of veiling upper class women. Veiling, what is the meaning of veiling? To wear a veil
to cover their head,
cover their head and also their body. Okay, you know that women are not supposed to show any part of their bodies except for two, which are
their face.
That's number one. Number two,
and their hands.
Their hands. So all the body of each Muslim woman or woman must be covered from head to toe, unless two things, which are the face and also the two hands. But of course, some women, they wear the full veil, which is called in Arabic as niqab, which is very good actually. The Holy Quran says that women should dress modestly, which has been interpreted in multiple ways. Still, women's lives varied according to the region, class. In rural areas, peasant women often needed to work and did not wear veil, but took care of dress modestly. So the same things, guys, as all the civilization. According to the position in their societies, women were treated and they practiced different practice. and I really don't need to waste any time in something that you already know. So jumping to topic 8.2. After the death of our Prophet, peace be upon him, what happened to the Muslims? How did we start to gather together and make a civilization? What happened to us? Did people start? You know the whole story. So the death of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, plunged his followers into grief, sadness. Muhammad, peace be upon him, had been a pious man and a very powerful leader. No one else had ever been able to unify so many Arab tribes. Could the community of the Muslims survive without him? Let's check that. But before we check, let's see this video about
the teachings of Muhammad are the basis for Islam, and he spread the religion through much of the Arab world. But two other powerful dynasties helped spread Islam beyond the Arabian Peninsula. The successors to Muhammad were known as caliphs. After Muhammad's death, a group of powerful Meccans created a dynasty of caliphs that ruled the Muslim empire for many years. They were called the Umayyad. The Umayyads' capital was in Damascus, Syria. From here, they directed their armies to conquer large parts of the world, including Spain and North Africa. The success of the Umayyads resulted in the spread of Islam. As they expanded their power, the rulers created an orderly empire and gained many new converts to Islam. The Arab Muslim rulers imposed restrictions and a special tax on non-Muslims, but they allowed Christians and Jews to practice their own faiths. They didn't try to convert people who practiced other religions. In fact, non-Muslims were allowed to take part in the Umayyad administrations as officials, doctors, and translators. Muslim Arabs did enjoy special privileges, and this created an upper class of citizens. And although there were many converts to Islam in areas where the Umayyads ruled, the non-Arab Muslims did not have the same rights as Arab Muslims. In 750, non-Arab Muslims, unhappy with their treatment under the Umayyad rulers, threw their support behind another Muslim, Abu Al-Abbas. Abu Al-Abbas captured Damascus and overthrew and killed members of the Umayyad family. His rule was the beginning of a new dynasty known as the Abbasid dynasty, which lasted until the 1200s. The Abbasid dynasty emphasized the equality of all Muslims, both Arab and non-Arab. Because of this, Islam became a more diverse religion, and the Muslim civilization flourished. The Abbasid capital was in Baghdad, along the banks of the Tigris River. Baghdad grew into one of the wealthiest and most sophisticated cities in the world. Under the leadership of influential Abbasid caliphs, poets, scholars, and philosophers from all over the world came to Baghdad. The city was known for its spectacular gardens, markets, and mosques, and culture and learning flourished in the Muslim civilization. How do you think the Abbasids' embrace of all Muslims contributed to their long reign?
So simply after Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has passed away, consequently the Muslims started to spread. Dynasties started to come to counter the leadership of the Muslims. So to begin with, a Muslim empire. Okay, Walid, can you start?
Islam faces challenges. Muslims faced a problem when Muhammad died because he had not named a successor to lead the community. Eventually, they agreed to Abu Bakr, Muhammad's father-in-law and an early convert to Islam, should be the first Khalifa or successor to Muhammad. Abu Bakr sternly told the faithful, if you worship Muhammad, Muhammad is dead. If you worship God, God is alive.
Why did he say that and when?
So, because people, what is ghalu in English?
That is what?
Ghalu.
What?
Nice, yeah.
Yes, yes,
So they cherished Muhammad a bit too much.
yes.
That
I know why,
Muhammad
teacher.
is a messenger of God and he is not God. He was
Yeah,
sent
when did
to
Abu
say what
Bakr
God
say,
wanted to say or
Yeah.
what
when
he
did
wanted
Abu
to.
Bakr say this quote? Okay, and why?
I tell you, teacher,
Yes, Nawaf.
when they was Muslim, when Muhammad died, they say the
Yes,
Muslim end, the religion
Clement.
Muslim.
Yes, nice.
Yeah, and we will not be Muslim. And Abu
Okay.
Bakr say Muhammad only sent the message. Is not the God. The God
Yes,
is
bravo.
Allah.
Nice, nice, very good knowledge. Of course, this whole situation happened when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was very sick and he was on deathbed. Consequently, once he died, and the rumor spread that he died, so people started to weep. People started not to believe. No, he cannot die. It's impossible. How can Muhammad dies? And they started to say things like that. Even Umar ibn Khattab, Umar ibn Khattab himself, he raised his sword and he said that whoever said that Muhammad's dead, I'm gonna cut his throat. So Abu Bakr came calmly. He was weeping, of course. He was very, very sad. Okay, and he said, "Oh, people of Quraysh, whoever worshipped Muhammad, Muhammad is dead. But whoever worshipped Allah, God, so God is alive and he never dies." And then he recited the verse of the Quran, "O say Muhammad was not but a messenger of God. If he was killed or murdered, will you turn back before Islam?" Okay, so of course at this point all people knew that our Prophet peace be upon him died, and Umar ibn Khattab started to weep. He threw down his sword to the end of the story. All right, so simply, guys, after our Prophet, now things will change. So now, when he died, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he did not name a successor as a leader for the Ummah, the community of Islam. He did not name anyone. So now the opinions varied. And unfortunately, the ego of the Arab people started to appear once again. So we are from Quraysh. So we are from the place where Prophet was born in. A successor must be from us. Some people came. We are from Yathrib. Prophet Muhammad, he traveled to us, so a successor must be from us. And some people came from Iraq. Some people from everywhere. So they needed to have this leadership. As you know, always at any civilization, man wants more. So the Sahaba, the followership of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they gathered and they named Abu Bakr as the new caliph of the Muslims. Why Abu Bakr? Why not anyone else? Because number one, Abu Bakr was Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, closest friend. He helped Prophet Muhammad since they were still youth. He always stood by him. Prophet Muhammad has named him in various situations to lead the people. Even when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was sick, he named Abu Bakr to pray with the people, to become the Imam and pray with them, and in many situations. And at that point, all the Muslims, they know that anyone as a leader, he just a Muslim like us. There is no difference between any one of us. All of us are equal. So they agreed to Abu Bakr. Yet, unfortunately, the people who were very new to Islam, okay, who just have entered Islam, they entered Islam because of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Once Prophet Muhammad died, they turned their back to Islam and went to worship their previous god once again. That's why Caliph Abu Bakr, he started the returning wars. Okay, these wars in Arabic, Hurub al-Ridda, okay, or the converting wars. Of course, because at that time those people, they are Muslims. So once you become a Muslim, you cannot leave Islam. Come on, you have been introduced to the righteous religion. You cannot leave it. It's prohibited in Islam. Okay, so consequently, he started to do this war, but finally, the all of the Muslim people started to unite, and by their unite, magnificent things happened. Let's check together. Okay, Nawaf, can you read this point, please? Arab joined together under Islam.
Arab joined together under Islam. Abu Bakr faced an immediate crisis. The loyalty of some Arab tribal leaders had been dependent on Muhammad's personal command. They refused to follow Abu Bakr and withdrew their loyalty to Islam. After several battles with the wavering tribes, Abu Bakr succeeded in reuniting the Muslims based on their allegiance to Islam. Once reunited, the Muslims set out an remarkable series of military campaigns. They began by converting the remaining Arab tribes to Islam, which ended war between Arabs and united them under one leader.
So, once Abu Bakr became a caliph, he encountered an immediate crisis. That crisis is most of the new people introduced to Islam turned their back and converted from Islam because they thought or they thought that they only believed in Muhammad, and now Muhammad is dead. That's it. We do not need Islam anymore. Of course, Abu Bakr started to have battles and fights and wars with those people until finally he could unite all of them under one control and one leader. Now, once the Muslims have become united, Abu Bakr, of course, died, and Umar ibn al-Khattab came as the new or the second caliph. At that point, we can now spread Islam towards all of the Arab Peninsula and beyond. So the Arab Muslim win victories. So now they will start spreading Islam beyond the Arab or the Arabian Peninsula. Musad?
Yes,
Oh, we're not learning today. Can you read, please?
of course. Arab Muslims win victories. Then, under the first four caliphs, the Arab Muslims marched from victory to victory against the neighboring Peasant and Persian empires, capturing territory in parts of Asia, Europe, and Africa. The Byzantines and Persians had competed with each other over control of lands in the Middle East. Once the Arabs united, they opposed their neighbors, conquering great portions of Byzantine's empire and defeating the Persians entirely. First, they took the province of Syria and Pakistan from Byzance, including the cities of Damascus and Jerusalem. Then they captured the weakened Persian Empire and swept into Byzantine Egypt.
Okay, so the Arab Muslims win victory. Of course, as I just told you, that right now Islam has started from this place in the Arabian Peninsula. And to spread, first they will start to spread into the Arabian Peninsula. They send people here to Yemen so that they can introduce them to Islam. They send people here, there. And now, once they counter the other civilizations next to them, they counter two civilizations. The Roman Empire in Europe, the Persian Empire in South Africa. The Roman Empire at that time was named the Byzantine Empire. Byzantine Empire. Okay, so the Byzantine Empire, they took control of many land. Let's see the Byzantine Empire. Bingo, bingo, bingo. All of that was under the control of the Byzantine Empire. Okay, and the Persian Empire. That is the Persian Empire. All right, and of course here the Muslims took control of that place. Let's make it important. So now the most magnificent or most powerful two empires in that era or that time was the Persian Empire and the Byzantine Empire. Both of them, they had they had countless attacks against each other. Okay, to be exact, for approximately 681 years. So for almost 7 centuries, the Persian were having fights with the Byzantine and the Roman. And you know, since the times of Athens and Sparta, they had fights and they had war in order to control themselves. And once the Muslims are united, and please put a million line under this. Once they are united, they stuck by themselves, they became one force, and this force destroyed the Persian and the Byzantine. Just imagine. There is a call or a proverb that says regarding this thing about the Persian and the Byzantine Empire that they were the most magnificent two powers in the universe back then. Okay, they even were more powerful than the Chinese and the Indians and even the Americans. But for 7 centuries, 7 continual centuries, they have been fighting with each other, and none of them could invade the other one. Yet, some Arab came, bare feet, not wearing any shoes, bare feet, nothing with them but faith in their hearts. They held nothing but faith, and they could destroy the whole 2 civilizations. Of course, by destroy here, not mean to destroy, but here to destroy mean that to stop them, to vanquish them. So the Muslim Empire, they started to spread towards Persia and, of course, the Byzantine. And regarding the Byzantine, they started first with Egypt, because Egypt was under the Byzantine Empire, and the Byzantine Empire sent the Pope to Egypt to live in Alexandria, and he banished the Egyptian Pope to the desert. So the Christian people in Egypt, they welcomed Amr ibn al-As to enter Egypt, and under Amr ibn al-As, the Egyptian people lived in prosperity because most of Egypt was Christian by that time. Okay, so we have the Arab Muslim. They marched from victory from one to another, and they countered 2 of the most important empires back then, Byzantine Empire and the Persian Empire. And of course, they started to win battle after battle. They took control of Syria and Palestine, and of course, Damascus and Jerusalem are the capitals of those 2 cities. And division of Islam, Sunnah and Shia. Shall we take this or revise? 9-2 have taken that.
We should revise.
Revise
No, we can't.
good.
Revise, I suggest.
Yeah, I think that's a wise
I don't
choice.
know.
Because
We're
I
studying
don't
about history
understand
and stuff.
Alexander very much.
Yes.
So, Sunnah Shia, Alexander.
Alexander.
Example.
Alexander it is. Alexander. Bingo. Alexander the Great. So, just in 5 minutes, we will just try to summarize everything that we have studied about Alexander. So, to begin with, Alexander himself, he was born in Macedonia. Macedonia, it was in the north of the city-states of Greek. At that place, he was the son of King Philip II. His father was the Macedonian king, and his father had that dream of uniting all of the Greek city-states under his control. Fortunately for his father, Philip II, he came at the time when most of the city-states of Greek were very, very fragile. Let's bring the charger. So, because the Greek city-states were fragile and they were weak, King Philip II could take control of them, and he had used many ways to do that. Number 1, to make an alliance with the people. Number 2, to give them a bribery, which is money. Number 3, to threaten them. Number 4, to even invade them and conquer them. So he used all possible means in order to get control of the whole Greece. Yet, unfortunately for him, he was assassinated at his daughter's wedding, and Alexander, with the help of his mother Olympia, she named him the successor of his father, and he was by that time, guys.
Your voice
Yes?
cut off for a while.
Since when?
After he was assassinated in his daughter's wedding.
Yeah. Totally waiting, thinking.
What's the question?
Teacher, I have a question about
Yes. What question do you have?
Philip II is father of Alexander.
Yes, that's a fact.
Yeah.
Who
And,
is Philip I?
Olympias
What?
is the mother of Alexander.
Olympia.
Okay, it's the mother of Alexander.
Yeah, Alexander the mother.
Okay.
Okay, so
Teacher,
Philip II, yes.
who was Philip the first then? Or just the Philip dude?
We do not have Philip the First in our books. Just leave
Oh,
Philip the
okay.
First alone, okay? Leave him alone.
Nah,
So
I'm just
why-
asking.
No problem. No, very good one actually. But know this: once you counter Philip II, Louis III, Ramos the 15th. Okay, so you know this. It was the previous king for the same place. Like we studied Darius the First in
Oh,
Persia,
so they're just
and later we
ruling.
took
So it was
Darius
Darius,
the Third.
and then it was Darius the second.
No, we took Darius the First and Darius the Third. We did not take the second
Oh,
because he's insignificant for us. We're not
oh, I
interested
see.
in what he did,
Oh,
right? All what
I
we
get it.
are caring about, or what we are interested about, is that we have Philip II, because Philip II he started uniting Macedonia and Greek, but Philip I, just like a king, any king. So it's useless for us to study about him. So the most important point is that Alexander started to conquer Persia. So he followed his father's footsteps, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna do that very, very much. Okay, because my shipment has arrived. So once again, Alexander started to conquer Persia following his father's footprints. He started to march towards India, and then he started to counter the Indian people and also about the Persian people. He took control of all of these city states and the civilization at his time. So he started from Macedonia, united the Greek people, went to Asia Minor. From Asia Minor, he went to Egypt. From Egypt, he went back to Persia. And from Persia, he started to invade it country by country and started to name cities under his name. So we have here Alexandria here, Alexandria here, and Alexandria here, and Alexandra Polis, also another one. So all of these cities he created for himself and also for his men, and he needed one very important point. He needed his men.
Ego.
Not ego. He needed his civilization to be spread. That's why he left Macedonia. You're speaking about a campaign that lasted for more than 11 years. So he needed to spread his civilization. Besides, he also needed to counter other civilization. Consequently, he married a Persian woman and also urged his followers to do the same. Marry women from other civilization and start having a one universal civilization. One universal civilization. So we all are men after all. We are leaders, we are warriors, we're gonna rule. That's okay. Yet those people whom we are invading are just like us. So Alexander left for us a very huge and magnificent empire, and after his death, none of his followers was strong enough to take control of that. Consequently, they divided it into three categories. Macedonia and Greek went to one, Egypt to another, and the rest of Persia to the third. And later, in many generations to come, unfortunately, they started to have fights among themselves in the era called the Hellenistic era. In the Hellenistic era, the leaders whom were left, the Alexander's territories, started having fighting among themselves in order to obtain more land. And then to speak about science and also about arts, you will encounter the same scientists we have studied in Athens and the same principles, studying more and more and more in order to achieve more glory. Pythagoras was one of the most important people in the Hellenistic period, Archimedes also, and Hippocrates. And that's it. Any other question?
Wait, who is the last one? Who is this Hippocrates?
No, you must be kidding. You do not know Hippocrates?
No, wait, just remind me. If you remind me, I will know.
He was a medical man. He studied the causes of the illnesses and also
okay. Oh, okay.
He was a doctor.
Yeah, okay, I remember now.
Okay.
Thank you.
You are very, very welcome.
Teacher, is the test tomorrow gonna be hard?
Very easy.
All right, thanks.
You are very welcome. See you tomorrow and have a nice day.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Perfect.
see you.